hey, Bernie, I need to science up my game. The channel, all the spiritual stuff is coming apart. It actually shifted from let's understand the spiritual stuff and see what's going on. It should be mentally interactive all the way down to, okay, I got it. This is hardcore psychology and what? It's really philosophy, but it's psychology. Yet it also affects the way we flow in life. And you mentioned that in that last video. What was it you said here? You said, it makes me wonder about groups of collective consciousness and quantum entanglement. I need to rewatch. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Why don't I just go there? That's exactly right. I mean, I'm not a quantum physicist, but I watch the stuff and at some point you realize everything is made up of building blocks. Everything scales off of something that's similar. However, it does appear as those continue to combine out there as building blocks continue to create bigger and bigger things, that emergent properties happen. We are now capable of doing things that, energy itself cannot, the thinking processes and things like that. Awareness. There's people that think that, that think somehow that awareness or something like that is fundamental. Consciousness is fundamental. I don't see that. I really don't. I can't picture that. And it doesn't matter if it is or isn't. I'm dealing with my memories, my life, my experience. So, and also in interpreting the material, honestly, I really believe that this is the God of Spinoza that is in the material that is inverted. If you were to look at the simplest thing from Jesus, I just said right there, what was it that psychology and that the nature of that psychology dictates our flow in life. And Jesus says what? If he comes to the altar to leave a gift, that's because you're looking for a better life. You remember you have ought against your brother. You have that's mental. Go resolve that first, and then your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. There's the God of Spinoza right there. Your life will just suddenly be better. Jesus teaches this in a way that can be understood. He's right on with what I just said. I just modified or interpreted his teaching. And he's one of thousands that are teaching this. We've lost it. This is the deal that is nested in the material, that is not followed by the people that are the practitioners of the material or the deniers of the material. The atheists are just as bad as the theists when it comes down to this is true, no, it's not. This is true, no, it's not. Hey, guys, there's an inner path in there. It's not for either of you. It's for the few of us. Anyway, so that's what we're doing right here. We're finding that there is a mental inner path to change the way we live. They knew how life worked. I'm sure they didn't know quantum, but they were able to observe, man, when I'm messed up and I'm thinking bad, stuff keeps happening bad. When I straighten that up, stuff happens good. Make that observation. They weren't busy like we were today. They could figure this stuff out just by, life was simpler. You didn't have so much jammed in there. I figured this out now that my life is simpler. Okay, so what do we have here then? The quantum, the universe, all of that. I picture the universe. Take two rocks, two stones, and throw them in a calm pond, and you watch as the ripples collide, and at different angles, you see different things happening. You see the interference pattern happen. As waves collide, there are always going to be interference patterns no matter what. And depending on the angle, it's going to change the shape of those. Some of them are going to grow and just be kind of uniformly getting bigger and bigger, the ones that are lined up, heading a certain direction. And where, to me, that would be quantum foam out there doing stuff like this, and that as a result of that, these over, we think in terms of billions of years for our universe. I think we need to think in terms of like forever, perhaps, or trillions upon gazillions or whatever, to the point to where a billion seems like a very small moment in time. I think that's how we have to look at this. Just because we only can see so far, you have to look and go, well, did it just start there? Or is it more likely that we're just downstream products of something that's been going on a long time? Which I go, yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me than poof, 13.8 billion years ago. What? How do you explain that? Now, what I'm ultimately saying here, that if you look at this and these wave patterns and put it on a scale that's humongous, something way, it's scaled something so big we can't even really approach it anymore, that this is quantum foam out there creating universes, and that within one of these interference or the non-interference patterns, this area that's growing where there is something, that each of those is a universe. So that's how I think the universe would logically come about. Do I know that? No, it's a theory. But if you look at it, you go, that makes sense. That makes sense. We can't prove it. You can't know it, but it makes sense. It makes more sense to me than the idea that there's just this universe and nothing else. I think that's harder to explain, honestly. It really is. And now with the James Webb Space Telescope, we're seeing galaxies that are older than they should be. So it looks like there's something more going on over a longer duration. And of course, my analogy here is so simple. It makes it seem like it's just one starting point and it just continues to fade off, when actually it's this roiling, constant, recreating within itself jumble. The two-dimensional visuals here are going to be woefully inadequate to this roiling energy that's just every time, when two frequencies collide, what happens is that what happens is you have the sum, the difference, the original frequencies. You end up taking 4 frequencies away, and then side lobes of those lower as well. So just by putting 2 frequencies together, you start creating more frequencies. And the more of those you start adding in, the variations, that pretty soon we have this incredible wide band of frequencies that are just all over the place. And you know what? It seems like we're just in a roiling foam. But it would have to be so huge that I can't wrap my comprehension around it. All of that makes sense to me. Okay, so what's going to happen then? The universe is just going to continue to expand and expand and expand until what? It's going to eventually just dissipate. What's called the big freeze by some people. It's not going to retract. It's not going to go in. It's created in waves. It's just going to keep moving that direction. It's just going to get colder and colder and farther and farther. And the way you explain things accelerating is that they're not accelerating. If you could imagine taking a balloon, this is going to be I'm going to have to build off of this one. This is a bad analogy to begin with. It's because it's not right. But if you can imagine a balloon, you know what? I'm going to get away from the balloon. I just thought of a better analogy. And I can just picture like watching a Mythbusters show where they blew up a dump truck or something like that and it exploded, and they showed it in slow motion, and you can just see that explosion blasting out like that. Now imagine something like that happening, but there's no gravity, there's no atmosphere to slow it down. Imagine that explosion happens and there's nothing that slows it down. It just keeps going on and on until it's too spread out. What happens though is right in the beginning, 2 pieces of, a couple of pistons are going to be right beside each other, taking off, going up. If they're blown apart, they're going to be accelerating upwards and at slightly different angles because they're all moving outward from the explosion, the point of explosion. And some things are moving directly opposite each other. Some things are just moving almost parallel to each other. Imagine something that's moving almost parallel to something else, and you measure the distance between these 2 things, and it's 3 inches, but it's moving at high rate of speed. And a second later you measure it again, and it's like, well, now it's 10 inches apart. A second later you measure it, and it's like, well, now it's 10 feet apart. A second later, well, now it's 100 feet apart. So that's what's happening is the expansion is given the illusion that things are speeding up, when in all reality, it's the expansion that we're observing, and things are getting farther apart because they're moving away from each other at different angles from each other. If you're parallel to something, the cosmic web, we're all going to stay together. We're gravity bound. But in between, where the gravity isn't bound, it's just doing that, expanding out. That's the space in between the objects that's going out. We're like the pistons, the matter that we see that is moving farther. It's moving farther and farther away each time. It's not, it is, but it's not accelerating necessarily. It's the expansion that makes it look like it's accelerating, because every time you measure it, it's farther away. You're not observing objects speeding up. You're observing the distance growing larger, which gives the illusion that they're speeding up. Does that make sense? That's how I see it. So that's how I wanted to describe that. It just seems like you could close your eyes and look at that and go, psh, what am I missing here? I know that there's a lot of dynamics that are going on internal that I haven't addressed at all. This is just kind of a big, broad overview. Okay, well, that was it. Yeah, Bernie, I wanted to talk about that. I liked your quantum idea there. So as we're going off then, and the way this works is it's at a level of quantum somehow. But that I think that, no, it's based in quantum, but what we're actually working at, we're working with emergent properties that are higher level than quantum. We're working with actual thought and emotion, and observing the emotion by using the thought and allowing the thought to drift into places. experiences, memories, and whatnot. And then utilizing that understanding to realize that memories are held in a certain painful and derogatory way, and that is creating our flow in life in a quantum layer. That's why it's there. It's able for things are coherent, even if they don't feel good. Everything is working the way it's supposed to. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, from Abrahamic material. Yet mystery and manifestation both come from the same source. The source is darkness, darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Lao Tzu. Yeah, you know what? They're all doing the same thing. Turn inward. Here it is. Resolve these issues, because you're going to live cyclically through your belief systems. Patterns will happen, and your life will flow as a result of that. Change these patterns, and life patterns change. So that's what the material teaches. It's hard for people to get there, though, and most people don't want to do that. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to believe in something that makes me feel better, and, go about my life and go watch TV and, learn about the world through someone else's jaded view. Anyway, all right. Well, I guess I don't want to go down that road. Really, the idea here is to talk about, I think, how the universe could have easily been created in quantum. Of course, by then, I don't know what. There's more to it. I'm sure gases and other things, they were there. The stuff's been formed before. It didn't just emerge right there. So, yeah, I think it's an ongoing process, and that we just happen to be existing in the midst of the right universe with the right conditions. And if you were around that, where those waves collide, and you got the nice interference patterns, you get around to the edges where they're all messed up. Yeah, who knows what the universal laws would be in those universes? It might not be the same. They might not function the same. I don't know. Different angles, different speeds, different something. Who knows? Who knows? But I think that we're in a lucky spot. We can be nowhere else. You can't. People say, why, how, whatever. It's like, well, you're not going to exist anywhere else. If it's just there and there's a place for existence to be, and that's where you are, that's it. That doesn't mean it was made for you or anything like that. An orange can get moldy. It doesn't mean that the orange was made for the mold. That's probably a horrible analogy, but it's probably pretty accurate. Where humanity is evolving, that's the problem, and we're overpopulating. So what happens? We're getting to the tribal gorilla fight. Yeah, the dominant ones want to take out the other dominant ones. They've demonized them. That's on the horizon. We can see that. So that's messed up. They can't see it. They don't realize it's happening. They don't realize it's getting ready to happen. And so you just try to figure out how to duck, what to do, how to prep. What's happening now is not, it's escalating. This is an escalation anyway. So we can see these are things that are continually emerging, and changing as time goes on. Nothing returns to the way it was. Yet everything cycles, which is weird. But because things continue to change, the changes are still occurring within the cycles. That is that's evolution, huh? Yeah. Even though humans didn't live forever, whatever did was living in cycles. We're living in cycles. Whatever beyond us, when we're gone, is going to be in cycles. So we have to know that. And then really, it's the mind state upstairs that dictates our personal flow. The rest of it is just fun and interesting to speculate. But it would answer why a certain thinking and a certain mental process would actually work. Instead of just saying, man, I don't know, it sounds kind of scary, I don't want to do it, doesn't make sense to me. If you look at it and go, okay, I see a reason scientifically why it would actually work, I'm going to do this then. I've just used my brain as my oscope. I've examined my own defects there, my own programs. I'm going to change the way I view them until the memory is no longer shameful, painful, hurtful, etc. And then observe as my life changes. It won't happen instantly, but you'll have gradual changes as a result. And as you keep making changes, the flow keeps changing. If you don't make the changes, birds of a feather flock together. That's quantum. People that think alike, earn alike, believe alike, live together. That just makes sense. That's evolution. Tribal behavior. We gather up the people like us. I do want to add in here upon editing that I'm speaking in general terms. There are people like us that we don't have a place. You're always out of place. Okay. There's people that cross all those barriers, but not many. Okay. Well, campfire chat, huh? Yeah. All right. Time for the red wine. Let's shut it down. Hey, hope it was interesting. Hope it made sense. You have to think it through on your own, I guess. I think graphics would have helped, but, measuring things out. The one where things are moving apart, that, if they're moving away from each other, it's the fastest. If they're going this way, they're still moving apart, but that's slower. You go, how come some things are moving faster? The things that are closer to you are moving away slower than the things that are farther away from you, that are moving at different angles away from you. They're not just like this, they're like this. So that's the difference right there. It's a different angle, but it's all due to this expansion and everything following that expansion. All right. Wish we'd get together and actually have a campfire. Talk to you later.